Hello watch enthusiasts. Now today I'd like to talk about traveller's watches, which are specifically adapted for someone who will need to track several time zones, and watches which are quite robust for the difficulties that one can encounter while travelling, such as rain and snow and so on. Now the first which I'd like to talk about is the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Professional GMT. Now this is a dive watch primarily, a 600 metre diver. However, it incorporates a GMT hand with its ETA 2893-2 movement. And it also has that zirconium dioxide GMT bezel, which means that it's very scratch resistant, but also allows one to track 3 time zones very easily with this watch. Now this watch is also very rugged. It's a 600 metre diver, so it's a professional diver's watch, which means it'll survive any sort of extra difficulties such as rain or snow and so on very easily with that screw-down crown. It does also have the date at 3 o'clock, which is clearly legible because of that black text on a white background. Now I think that another useful feature of this watch is the loom. The watch is extensively loomed on the bezel and the dial and hands, making it very legible at night if one's travelling at night. It'll also make the watch easily read, and equally that GMT hand is also copiously loomed to make it more usable. This watch is available in a number of colours, but my favourite is the black and the red, because I think it gives it's a combination which is rare on this sort of watch, and really differentiates this watch from other GMT dive watches in this price bracket. Despite being a professional dive watch, I think this watch still has a certain elegance due to its fairly slim profile. It slips easily under the cuff of a shirt, and it's available in 2 sizes, the 43mm or the 38mm version. Now I imagine most people will go for the 43, but it's worthwhile trying both on just to see which fits better. In terms of straps, it's very much up to you. I think the leather strap would be a nice option if one's just primarily travelling, but equally a rubber strap would be very versatile, while a metal bracelet would have that timeless elegance that only a metal bracelet has. Now this second watch is a real classic from Glace. It's the Airman, which was used by a number of pilots throughout the wars, and by a number of astronauts, due to its GMT nature. Now this was the first GMT watch. This came out before the Rolex GMT Master. And it incorporates a number of details which will be very useful to a traveller. It can track 3 time zones very easily due to having the 24-hour scale on the inside of the dial as well as the bezel, in order to make it easier to track 3 time zones even. The date is again in the same place as the Christopher Ward, making it very legible and legible when actually half the watch is under your cuff. Now, to make this watch even more durable, it's water resistant to 200 metres, so there are going to be no problems with regards to water. One excellent feature of this watch is the bezel, which of course turns freely. It's not a ratcheting bezel, it's friction fixed, which would be a problem because it would move. However, it has this second crown at the 4 o'clock position, which enables one to lock the bezel in place and prevent it from slipping at all. This would, of course, have been an invaluable feature for a pilot who wanted to set their GMT bezel in order to be able to track a particular time zone while in a different one, and make it altogether far easier for them. Again, this is a very legible watch and a somewhat utilitarian watch in terms of design, so it's not the sort of watch that I think would suit a suit. But in terms of being elegantly designed for its purpose, there's really no better option. Now, the case of the watch is stainless steel and has brushed lugs on the top, and then the rest of the watch is polished, in a typical nod to the past and the way watches were designed back then. Equally, the dial may seem fussy at first, but I think it should be noted that it really is carefully designed to be very legible, and it equally has the minute numerals and the second numerals, as well as that 24-hour indication. Now, with regards to strap options on this watch, I think that the leather strap would be a really beautiful addition to this watch. I think it gives a very classic look, which immediately fits with the design cues of the watch. Equally, a NATO strap in a fairly subdued colour would suit this watch beautifully, because that was what a lot of pilots used to wear them on, to avoid losing their watches. I think the only option which I wouldn't advise is the metal bracelet, which I think just makes the whole watch far too bright and shiny, whereas it should be quite a subdued instrument, worn by a pilot and not worn for show, which is why I think the strap is a great option. Now, the price for this watch, this very historic watch, it has to be said, is between £900 and £1,100, depending on the model you get, which I think, considering the movement being the same as that in the Christopher Ward, is a very good deal for such a prestigious brand. Now, this next watch is one for more of the gentleman traveller, and this is the Tudor Heritage Advisor. Now, this watch, which includes an ETA 2892 movement in it, doesn't actually have a GMT function, but instead it has a power reserve and a very effective alarm. As you can see, the styling cues on this watch are very classic. Especially on the leather strap, this watch looks very traditional, but still has some interesting features, such as that sub-dial which shows the date, and equally it has an on-off window, as you can see, for that red alarm hand, which makes the watch mechanically buzz to wake you in the morning, which I think is a very practical feature for a traveller. Another feature which I appreciate in this watch is the power reserve. Now, the power reserve would be extremely useful for someone who has left the watch on their bedside table, for example, for a while. It gives one a good indication of where one stands with regards to wearing the watch or winding it, and I think can really help one, because if you're travelling and your watch runs out of winding power, you can end up in a sticky situation where you don't know the time. So I really do appreciate having a power reserve on this watch. Equally, keeping those sub-dials into that central section of the main dial really does serve to unclutter the dial and give it a very symmetrical look. Now, at 42mm, the case may feel imposing for some because of the design of it, but it's light because it's titanium and steel, which is a feature which I really appreciate from Tudor, because it shows they've really put some thought into this. Now, this watch is available in a number of colours, including this burgundy, which I think is a very elegant option on that crocodile strap, alligator strap rather. But equally, the black is a very simple option, or the silvery beige is equally something to look at if you wear primarily light clothing. Now, this photo does also serve to show how aggressively the lugs taper, meaning that it'll slip under the cuff because of its curved nature, which is a problem one sees with a lot of watches, having jagged edges that catch on your sleeve. Now, I think on the leather strap, this watch really does look beautiful. I think better than it does on the metal bracelet, simply because it lends to that classic design that this watch is going for. This picture also demonstrates the texturing on the dial, which is extensive really in terms of the markers and the different sections of the dial, and the spherical power reserve. Now, the price for this watch is £4,000, which may seem very steep for an ETA-based movement, but considering the craftsmanship of the case and the dial, and equally the level to which this movement is decorated, and also the modifications they've made, it does seem very fair. To put that into context, other watches with an in-house movement with similar specifications will easily cost twice as much as this watch. So actually, I do think that Tudor are selling a very good deal with this watch. Now, for the absolute pinnacle of luxury sports travellers' watches, I'd look to Rolex, but they have two models which both sit on the market, the Explorer 2 and the GMT Master 2. And I think it's difficult to choose between them, but I think that generally they have similar features. They have the same movement, except that while the GMT Master has that rotating bezel, the Explorer 2 has a slightly larger 42mm case. Equally, the GMT Master is £3,000 more than the Explorer, which I personally think is excessive. Now, in terms of shared features, these watches both have in-house chronometer Rolex movements, which are accurate to +2, -2 seconds a day, which is really the pinnacle of regulation with regards to mechanical movements. and these automatic movements are known for being very rugged and resilient. Equally, both of these watches have that famous 904L stainless steel made by Rolex, which is much harder than normal steel, and can be raised to a higher polish on those sides, which really does lend to a very lustrous look. Using Rolex's proprietary lume, these watches also have very good legibility at night. However, I'd say that the legibility of the Explorer is superior due to its larger hands and markers. And this, I think, is the way of choosing between these watches as being the pinnacles of the traveller's watch. I'd say that if one needs more resilient a watch, then go for the Explorer 2, with that larger case and that stronger lume, and fewer moving parts on the outside. It'll be much more resilient to bumps and so on. Equally, the bracelet is all brushed, meaning that it will also resist scratches more. On the other hand, the GMT Master 2 is a beautiful piece if you're going to be travelling in a more comfortable fashion. With that polished link in the bracelet, it really lends to a very, very elegant watch. Equally, that high-polished ceramic bezel really does make for a beautiful look when matched with a nice shirt and jacket. The sizing of the GMT Master 2 will also suit a leisurely traveller more, on the basis that 40mm is an easier size to fit under a cuff than the larger 42 of the Explorer 2. Anyway, I'll finish on this picture of this beautiful vintage GMT Master from Rolex, which really was an icon in terms of pilot and traveller watches. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do please like, share and subscribe if you did enjoy this video and would like to see more content on this channel. I upload twice a week with hopefully interesting content for my viewers. So thank you very much for watching. This is I'm on the Watch Guy, over and out.